tore through formations, splitting massive cruisers in half. The galaxy had never seen such discipline, such cold calculation mixed with raw, unstoppable firepower. Ships that had felt invincible moments ago were now drifting hulks, silent monuments, to human wrath. On Vega 4, settlers watched in awe and disbelief. Children ran to the hills with wide eyes. Parents wept quietly as they saw the ships that had tormented them fall apart in seconds. Fear shifted into hope, and hope into a deep rising pride. Humanity had come. Humanity had listened. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of the flagship Terran Sentinel. His face was calm, his hands resting on the rail as he watched the battlefield unfold. He had seen countless conflicts, known loss and grief more than any single man should. Yet he understood this moment was not revenge. It was justice. It was the answer to centuries of doubt from the galaxy. The silence before their strike had been a weapon as deadly as the warships themselves. Patience had been humanity's greatest ally, teaching the galaxy that words backed by power carried weight beyond imagination. By nightfall, the invaders were gone. Council ships that had once scoffed at humans floated silently in ruin. The colonists of Vega 4 stared upward, mouths open, hearts pounding. A single truth had been proven. Humanity did not bluff. And in that moment, the galaxy began to tremble. The galaxy was in shock. News of the destruction at Vega 4 spread faster than any council announcement. Every world, every fleet, every diplomat heard the story. The humans had struck and the consequences were total. What had been whispers of mockery turned into silence, then fear. The arrogance of the council was replaced with panic, though pride still clung stubbornly to their leaders' faces. The council did not retreat. They could not. Their history, their authority, demanded that they respond. They called forth their fleets, more numerous and larger than any had ever seen. Hundreds of ships, millions of soldiers, weapons of unimaginable power, all prepared to crush humanity in a single decisive blow. And yet, humanity was ready. The Terran fleets had grown in secret for decades, hiding behind asteroids, cloaking, fields and shadows of dead systems. Earth's engineers had built weapons designed to rival the galaxy itself. On hidden colonies, human pilots trained relentlessly, drilling for precision strikes, studying enemy formations, and preparing for war that no one in the galaxy believed they could win. The first encounter came at the edge of Terran space. The Council's fleet advanced in perfect formation, confidence radiating from every ship. They fired first, testing defenses, expecting humanity to scatter or surrender. But the humans did not retreat. The Terran ships moved like one being, a shadow of steel and fire. Energy beams lanced from the darkness, cutting apart enemy cruisers in seconds. The Council's mighty weapons, designed to tear through fortresses, barely scratched the Terran hulls. Humanity's tactics were precise, their discipline unmatched. On board the flagship Terran Sentinel, Admiral Marcus Hale watched the battlefield unfold. His face was calm, almost serene, even as explosions shook the void. Focus on their leaders. First, he commanded, remove the arrogance and the rest will follow. The Council's pride cracked. Their admirals had never faced a force like this. Ships that were once untouchable crumpled under human fire. Factions that had mocked. Humanity now screamed orders in panic, trying to regroup. For every Council ship that fired a weapon, a human ship countered with exact precision, never wasting energy, never faltering. The war spread. Systems near Terran borders were engulfed in chaos. Council fleets learned quickly and brutally that humans fought not only with technology, but with the kind of resolve that only centuries of survival could forge. Colonists who had once feared for their lives now stood with human soldiers, operating defensive stations, manning cannons, and witnessing history being written before their eyes. And still, the humans gave their enemies one chance: surrender, withdraw, or face complete annihilation. Many did not. Some fleets attempted clever tactics, some tried diplomacy in the heat of battle, and some simply fled. But the human response was unstoppable. Every Defiant ship fell. Every fleet that lingered too long was shattered. By the third day, the Council realized a terrifying truth. They had underestimated humanity. Every arrogant calculation, every mocking prediction had failed. The galaxy had expected a small flame, easily snuffed out. Instead, they faced a firestorm. On Vega 4, the survivors watched the skies no longer trembling but filled with awe. They could see the human ships moving with purpose, a tide of steel and light that promised protection and retribution. Their hope, once fragile and trembling, now roared like a living thing. Humanity had not only defended its borders, it had become a legend in the making. And somewhere in the council chambers, leaders whispered fearfully to one another. Words like invincible and unimaginable crept into their conversations. Pride had failed them. The galaxy had learned that words backed by action were a force none could ignore. The war had ignited, but the true fury of humanity, the key, full scale of its strength, was only beginning to be revealed. Across the galaxy, the news of Terran victories spread like wildfire. Worlds that had never heard of Earth now spoke its name with hushed voices, fear curling in every syllable. Children trembled in classrooms, looking at the night sky, wondering if the dark ships they had only heard about would come for them. Parents whispered prayers in every language, alien and common, hoping their homes would be spared. The Galactic. Council gathered once more in its grand hall, but this time, the atmosphere was different. The arrogance that had always filled the chamber had faded, replaced by tension and unease. Leaders paced nervously. Some tried to maintain their composure, but it was clear that fear had entered the hearts of even the most powerful. "This cannot be happening," hissed Elder Rix, the reptilian ambassador. "They are only human. How can they have this strength?" A Vayari general clicked his mandibles, trembling. "Our fleets, our greatest fleets, destroyed. In hours, they must be gods, or worse, monsters." Council leaders argued about strategy. Some wanted revenge to show humanity that the galaxy would not bow. Others urged caution, pleading that another strike would bring total annihilation. But pride ran deep. Many could not bring themselves to admit they were wrong. They could not turn back. Meanwhile, across alien homeworlds, ordinary citizens reacted with fear and awe. Families on distant planets huddled in their homes, watching transmissions of Terran fleets moving through space, obliterating entire sections of enemy formations. Traders abandoned routes, fearing ambush. Scholars speculated about human technology, trying desperately to understand how a species so young could wield such power. In some worlds, fear gave way to panic. Militias prepared for invasion, armies were conscripted, and fleets were hurriedly refitted with experimental weapons. But it was too late. Humanity was not coming as a conqueror. It was coming as a defender, enforcing its borders with precision and purpose. Any who tested it would burn. On Earth, Admiral Marcus Hale watched the galaxy respond. From the bridge of the flagship Terran, Sentinel, he did not rejoice. He understood the cost of war, the pain left in the wake of each engagement. Humanity had fought to protect its people, not to spread fear. Yet the fear was real, and it was necessary. In the council chambers, debate turned to desperation. "We cannot afford to wait," said one leader, his voice cracking. "We must strike again, crush the humans before they grow stronger." "But our fleets cannot hold against them," another admitted, voice low and trembling. "Every Defiant ship falls. Every assault fails. We are not prepared for this." Panic spread faster than strategy. Some members began to whisper of surrender, but the idea was unthinkable to proud empires. Pride, arrogance, and stubbornness kept them from yielding. They wanted to fight. They had to fight. Yet, the shadow of humanity hung over every plan, every calculation, every decision. On Vega 4, the colonists finally dared to step outside their hiding. They had watched human fleets strike with terrifying precision, and the invaders had fled. Fear in their hearts was slowly replaced by wonder. The humans they had once feared might be destroyed had risen as guardians, And for the first time in weeks, children laughed as they played under the stars, knowing that someone powerful was watching over them. Across the galaxy, whispers spread like wildfire. The humans are not weak. Do not test them. Do not cross their borders. And for the first time, many species truly understood the price of defiance. In the silence between worlds, in the trembling hearts of alien leaders, one thought became clear. Humanity had shown the galaxy its strength, and the cost of ignoring it would only grow. The fear had spread. The lesson was beginning to sink in. And the Council knew deep down that humanity's fury had only just begun. The Council's pride refused to die quietly. After weeks of watching their fleets crumble and their authority shaken, they gathered the largest armada in their history. 1,000,000 ships, bristling with weapons, engines blazing, and soldiers eager for battle, moved like a river of fire through the void. Their goal was simple: crush humanity once and for all, show the galaxy that no race could defy the Council and live. And yet, humanity had been waiting. The Terran fleets lay hidden among the shadows of dead stars, cloaked by technology so advanced that the Council's scouts could not detect them. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light. 1,000 banners hung from the ceilings, each representing a species that believed itself important in the endless stars. Voices filled the chamber, some sharp and hissing, others deep and rumbling. To the Council, this was the heart of the galaxy, the place where every decision was made and every law declared. But on this day, a single human voice cut through the noise. Admiral Marcus Hale stood tall at the center of the chamber. His uniform was plain compared to the silken robes and jeweled cloaks of the alien leaders. His face was weathered, his eyes sharp, and his voice carried a weight that no jewels could match. He did not speak with arrogance. He spoke with the calm finality of someone who had seen war, loss, and sacrifice. His words echoed across the hall. From this day onward, Terran borders are closed. No Council patrol, no merchant fleet, no diplomat will cross into our space. If you test us, you will regret it. For a moment, there was silence. The vast chamber, always alive with chatter, stilled, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Then laughter burst out from the seats of power. The Orcs, a reptilian species with scaled bodies and golden crowns, let out a sharp hiss that echoed like broken glass. Terrans, declaring borders? One of their elders mocked. Your kind is young. You have only just stepped among the stars. Do you think you can challenge the Council? The insectoid Vayari clicked their mandibles together, their voices scratching like metal. Humans are fragile. One storm, one virus, and your colonies die. You dare to threaten us? Others joined in. The hall filled with the sound of mockery. The laughter was cruel, the kind that came from empires who had crushed dozens of worlds beneath their banners. But Admiral Hale did not flinch. He did not shout or beg. He simply stood there, a single human against the laughter of a galaxy. His eyes were steady, his jaw unshaken. He remembered Earth's past, wars that had nearly destroyed humanity, sacrifices that had carved their history in blood and fire. He remembered the long winters when children starved, the burning skies, of old wars, the silence of space where human explorers had died just to see another star. Humanity had endured it all. Humanity had always risen again. He spoke once more, his words slow and heavy. We ask for peace, but if you bring war to our homes, you will find it waiting for you. Do not cross into Terran space, you have been warned. The laughter only grew louder. To the Council, humanity was nothing more than a small flame, easily extinguished. They had seen hundreds of species rise and fall. What was one more? Their arrogance blinded them. They believed themselves eternal, untouchable. And so, they dismissed the warning. When Admiral Hale turned to leave, some counselors even shouted insults after him. Run back to your little planet. Hide in your corner of the stars. Their words dripped with venom, but Hale kept walking. His footsteps echoed against the marble floor, steady and unhurried. Behind him, The Council voted to ignore the Terran Declaration. Their decision was clear. Humanity's warning was meaningless. But somewhere in the cold silence of space, humanity was preparing. On hidden shipyards, warships slept beneath iron scaffolds. On quiet colonies, men and women trained not with fear but with grim determination. On Earth itself, leaders spoke in whispers about the coming storm. Humanity had declared its warning. The galaxy had chosen not to listen. And in the stillness of that moment, the future shifted. A spark had been lit, one that would soon burn brighter than the Council could ever imagine. Weeks passed after Admiral Marcus Hale's declaration. The halls of the Galactic Council buzzed with gossip and arrogance. Many believed that humanity's warning was nothing more than empty pride. The great empires mocked Earth, calling them a child among giants. But pride often blinds the powerful. The first test came quietly. A Council patrol fleet of 20 ships entered Terran borders under the excuse of inspection. They claimed they wished to make sure humans were not hiding illegal weapons. In truth, it was a challenge, a way to prove that Earth could not enforce its words. The fleet moved through human space, mapping trade routes, scanning colonies, and sending back reports filled with laughter. "No resistance," they wrote. "The Terrans bark loudly, but they do not bite." When they left, humanity did not respond. There were no ships chasing them, no shots fired. To the Council, this silence was weakness. To humans, it was patience. Then came the raiders. Not true pirates, but Council-hired mercenaries given orders to strike Terran colonies and test their defenses. They descended on small outposts near the edge of human space. Villages were burned, trade ships stolen, and families forced to kneel before foreign banners. On the colony world of Vega 4, the attack was worse. A Council strike team landed with banners high, not even hiding behind the mask of piracy. They called it an enforcement mission. Soldiers in gleaming armor walked through farms, tearing crops from the ground. They stormed homes, throwing settlers out into the dirt. One commander, his voice dripping with arrogance, stood before a group of terrified settlers and said, "You belong to the galaxy now. The Council is your master. Forget the words of your human leaders. Their threats mean nothing here." The settlers did not fight. They were farmers, miners, and children. What could they do against trained soldiers and war machines? But even in their silence, their hearts burned with quiet rage. That night, under a dark sky, a young colonist named Alara recorded a message. Her voice shook, but her words carried strength. "They are here. They mock our warning. They treat us like we are nothing. To Earth, to our leaders, to Admiral Hale, do not forget us. Do not let them trample our homes. Humanity must answer." She transmitted the message toward Earth. The signal crossed light years of silence, carrying the pain of an entire colony. For 3 days there was no reply. On Vega 4, the settlers waited. Some prayed, some despaired. Others began to lose hope, believing that the Council was right, that Earth had spoken boldly but would not act. Children asked their parents if the soldiers would stay forever. The parents had no answer. Across the galaxy, the Council grew louder in its mockery. In grand halls, alien leaders laughed about the Terran bluff. They shared stories of their raids, treating the suffering of humans as entertainment. "See how they stay silent," the Vayari hissed with delight. "They are nothing." But on Earth, the silence was not weakness, it was preparation. Within the deep shipyards orbiting Mars, war machines stirred. Massive battleships hidden for decades under the veil of secrecy powered up their cores. Crews moved like shadows, silent but determined. Generals spoke in hushed voices, their plans sharp and precise. Humanity was not rushing to strike. They were waiting, watching, ensuring the Council believed their own lie, that humans were powerless. The settlers of Vega 4 did not know this. To them, each day of silence was another wound, another insult. They tilled their ruined fields under the eyes of foreign soldiers, their hearts heavy with despair. And yet in that despair there was also fire. Humanity's silence was not surrender. It was the calm before the storm. The galaxy believed Earth had no reply to give. But the truth was simple. When humanity answered, the stars themselves would tremble. For 3 long days, Vega 4 waited. The colonists did not know if Earth had received their desperate message. Some whispered prayers to old gods, some cursed the Council for their cruelty, and some simply stared at the dark sky, hoping for a miracle. The invaders walked freely, among the villages, burning what they pleased, looting what they wanted. Every day the human spirit seemed to stretch thinner, but no one gave in to despair completely. And then, on the 4th day, the galaxy learned a lesson it would never forget. Thou. Void of space above Vega 4 tore open in silence. At first, the Council soldiers thought it was another patrol fleet returning. Then the stars themselves seemed to shiver. Massive warships, shaped like shadows cast by thunderclouds, emerged from the darkness. They were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Not elegant, not sleek, not polite, they were machines of purpose and power forged for one reason: defense. And now, that defense had become a fence. The lead human ship, enormous and black as night, transmitted a single message in every frequency, every language, every communication channel the Council had. Its tone was calm, unhurried, yet each word cut deeper than the sharpest blade. You were warned. A moment of stunned silence followed. Council soldiers stared at the enormous shapes of the Terran fleet. Some tried to call for reinforcements. Others froze, unable to believe what they saw. 1,000,000 eyes from 1,000,000 species could not comprehend the scale of what humanity had hidden. The first strike came not as a roar, but as precision. Beams of dark energy tore through the patrol ships with surgical accuracy. Shields flared, alarms screamed, and within minutes what had seemed invincible was shattered into drifting debris. The Vega 4 sky glowed with fire as explosions lit up the atmosphere. The humans did not chase the fleeing soldiers immediately. They gave one chance: leave, withdraw, surrender. The rules of engagement were clear, written into the hearts of every human commander. Humanity did not seek cruelty. They sought respect, peace, and safety for their homes. But they would not hesitate to punish defiance. Council soldiers hesitated. Some fled, some tried to fight. The difference was immediate. Human, rail cannons and plasma arrays. Entire moons had been hollowed and transformed into weapon platforms. Mining stations were secretly converted into gun emplacements. The humans had anticipated every strategy, every maneuver, every mistake the Council might make. Patience had been humanity's greatest weapon. As the Armada entered Terran space, the first warning came. Sensors lit up with impossible readings, ships appearing from nowhere, formations moving with a speed that no Council engineer had predicted. Terran warships emerged, massive and black, bristling with energy cannons and railguns. Their engines roared with a sound that shook the void itself. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of the flagship Terran Sentinel. His voice, calm and commanding, carried across the fleet. Engage only after they have made their move. Remember, our goal is defense. Any who retreat will live. Any who defy us will not survive. The Council's Armada thought it was entering human space to conquer. The humans had other plans. The first engagement was catastrophic. Council ships fired blindly, expecting to overwhelm the Terran fleet. But every strike was intercepted, every formation shattered. Human warships moved like a single organism, predicting attacks before they happened, countering with lethal precision. Weapons designed to obliterate worlds failed against the Terran shields. Fleet after fleet fell in flames, their engines tearing apart under the might of human weaponry. By the second day, panic had spread through the Council ranks. Their leaders had not believed the Terrans capable of such coordinated defense. Withdraw, regroup, they ordered. But retreat was impossible. The humans anticipated it, blocking every route. Ships that attempted to flee were cut down mercilessly on Earth. Millions watched the transmissions in real time. Families, soldiers, and leaders felt a mix of awe and sorrow. Every victory had a cost, but humanity's patience and discipline were unmatched. They did not fight recklessly. They fought to protect their homes and their borders, showing the galaxy the true meaning of strength. In the council chambers, disbelief turned to terror. Leaders realized the full extent of the mistake they had made. Pride and arrogance had led them to this point. But now, only survival mattered. Many whispered about surrender, but fear made their voices tremble. How could they ask for mercy after the damage they had caused? By the third day, the Terran fleet had cleared the Armada from their borders. Countless ships floated lifeless, and the remaining council commanders fled into the void, broken and humiliated. The message from Admiral Hale echoed through every transmission channel. We asked only for peace. You brought war to our homes. Your defiance has a cost. Remember it. Across the galaxy, species who had once mocked humanity began to rethink their calculations. Children on distant worlds learned the name Terran with respect and fear. Traders, scholars, and warriors all came to the same conclusion. Humanity was not a race to test, not a species to underestimate. And on Vega 4, survivors walked among the ruins of their world, hearts lighter than they had felt in months. They had witnessed what no words could capture, the full might of humanity, a force both terrifying and protective. The council had been broken, and the galaxy had learned its most important lesson. Humanity's borders were not merely lines on a map. They were sacred, and any who tested them would pay dearly. The final lesson had been taught. After the Council's largest armada had been shattered, silence spread across Terran space. The stars seemed quieter, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, reflecting on the enormity of what had occurred. The galaxy had learned, in the most painful way, that humanity's words were not empty, that their warnings were never to be ignored. On Earth, Admiral Marcus Hale stood quietly on the observation deck of the Terran Sentinel, looking out at the endless stars. Behind him, fleets rested in orbit, their weapons still humming softly, ready for any threat. Humanity had fought not for conquest, not for revenge, but for its homes, its families, and its right to exist in peace. The victory was complete, but the weight of the lives lost and the destruction endured pressed heavily on every human heart. Across alien worlds, the reactions were varied but unanimous in one truth. Humans were not to be tested again. Once they had been dismissed as fragile and young. Now they were legends, gods of war and protection, forces of nature that the galaxy could not challenge. Parents told their children of the Terran fleets, of the fires that consumed entire armadas, and of the warning that came with every strike. Do not defy them. The council met in its shattered halls, their pride in ruins. Leaders who had once mocked humans now argued over how to repair the damage, how to avoid provoking the Terrans again. Some even whispered about sending envoys of apology, though fear often prevented them from putting words to their thoughts. Every decision, every plan, was now measured against one terrifying reality. Humanity could not be defeated. Meanwhile, across colonized Terran space, life slowly returned to a new normal. On Vega 4, settlers rebuilt their homes among the scorched fields. Children laughed again, their voices carrying across the wind as families celebrated survival. The colonists looked to the stars not with fear, but with gratitude and awe, knowing that humanity's fleets had come not just to destroy, but to protect. Stories of human resilience spread faster than the Council could contain. Traders, explorers, and diplomats shared tales of strategic brilliance, of patience and discipline, of firepower unmatched and precision unmatched in history. Across hundreds of worlds, the name Earth became synonymous with strength, honor, and a warning that no one dared ignore. Even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where humans had never been, the memory of their power traveled faster than light. Ships that had once patrolled freely now paused at Terran borders, reconsidering routes, recalculating risk. Entire sectors quietly marked the boundaries as forbidden, a shadow line that could not be crossed without catastrophe. Admiral Hale understood the responsibility that came with this reputation. Humanity had proven itself, but power carried weight. They would protect their people, enforce their borders, and maintain peace, but they would never become tyrants. Their goal had always been survival and respect, not domination. And yet, the galaxy had learned its lesson. The final transmissions from the Terran fleets reached every corner of known space. Terran space is sacred. Respect our borders. Do not test humanity again. For many species, these words were more than a warning. They were a promise, an unbreakable truth forged in fire and courage. The galaxy had defied humanity once. It had paid the price. And in the quiet moments that followed, a new era began. One where humans were no longer just one species among many, but a force that commanded respect, a civilization that had turned its survival into legend, a people whose borders were untouchable. The stars themselves seemed to remember the victories, the battles, the courage, and the warning. Humanity's legacy had been carved across the galaxy, clear and unshakable. Do not cross into Terran space. The humans warned us once. We did not listen, and we paid.